Alright, hello RGL. It is a beautiful Sunday morning. That means it's time for No Rules Get Phat. Wait, is that what that means? Well, we're gonna go with it anyway. That's what we're going with. So my name is Tristan, and we have the top two runners of No Rules Get Phat here racing for us today. On the right, we have the Kusogrande champion, making him the king of Kusoge, the baron of bad games, the Okami of oh god, why are you playing this? NPC. Over on the left, we have the current world record holder, the one with the least rules, the fattest, he who plays the GBA trash with retro class, Gilgatex. They're going to be buzzing through this game in somewhere between 33 and 40 minutes for us. So I'm going to hop over and get them ready to go, and we'll be starting in just a moment. Just doing a quick check-in with our racers, make sure they're ready. And they should be off in just a second here. So, No Rules Get Phat. This is a GBA game from around the early 2000s, pretty early 2000s. It is an extremely 2000s game. A whole lot of skateboarding, as you're going to see here, which means that most of the game is ice physics. Which gets even worse when later on you actually have a level with actual ice physics on top of the skateboarding, but we'll get there. So the main thing you're going to want to keep an eye on is the damage boost. You're going to have a whole lot of damage boosting in this run. Both racers have a health bar indicated in the top right. You have 12 HP max. When it runs out, you die, of course. And as the racers descend this building, the thing to keep in mind is there's fall damage. And careful management of fall damage and damage boosting is a major component of the game. As you roll along, you can end up in force battles, where the screen will stop scrolling until you take out a series of enemies with your slingshot. Now, these are not entirely terrible because they'll drop an orb for you, either a yellow orb or a blue orb. Once you have a yellow orb or a blue orb, you can use it for a power-up. The yellow orbs will freeze all enemies on the screen, and the blue orb will make you invincible. Our racers want to see as many blue orbs as possible because they let the runner blow through enemies with damage boosts without actually taking damage. And the more health you save, the more damage boosts you can do. The first level here, downtown, is mostly just a whole lot of climbing buildings, skating around, and slingshotting things. You're not going to see a whole lot of the game's turbo jank, unless one of our racers falls into rebar, like what just happened to Gilgatex there. That's unfortunate. But it's early in the race, it doesn't mean a whole lot. I still expect that we'll see quite a lot of race ahead of us, you know, and maybe my commentary curse is a little on point today. NPC has managed to pull slightly into the lead as a result of that little oops. Like I said, it's early yet. We're 2 minutes in. We got like 30 minutes left of this. So we can see in both racers' screens an example of a force fight where the screen stops scrolling and enemies will approach from both sides. Now, the best thing to do, especially early in the game when the enemies are weak, is just to sit in the middle of the screen, fire left and fire right. And that's it. NPC has reached the end of level 1 first and has reached a boss fight. The boss fights are DDR, and it's the easiest DDR game you've ever seen. Like seriously, if you've ever played DDR, the songs are represented in difficulties with feet levels. The easiest song is 1 foot. This song is closer to about 2 toes and a knuckle. It's not even 1 foot. So what you have to do is you have to match the pattern by tapping the button indicated as it moves into the square on the left. After you do an entire bar of music, the boss will flinch a little bit. When the boss flinches, you hit A. And the boss will take a little bit of damage. His health bar there, the green health bar you see on NPC's screen, will go down. The number of records you have indicate how many mistakes you can make. So NPC can make 4 mistakes before losing a life on this boss. Those are actually pickups you get through the level. Every level has 10 records, and they translate directly to how many hit points you have during this boss fight. Unfortunately, the boss fights are about 3 minutes of this. You know, it's not the most riveting of gameplay, but it's still pretty high risk because if you miss a single note, you have to do the entire bar over, which can cost quite a bit of time. Now, the thing that I've always asked myself during these segments, because you have a lot of time to ask yourself questions during these segments, is you got this guy who's obviously doing damage to you by spinning a record, and One-Eyed Jack, the protagonist, is like 4 feet tall. You know, he's not a big dude. This guy is built. Rather than just stand over there and, like, punching your palm and trying to look all threatening, why don't you just walk over and clonk the kid? Maybe there's some rule of alien street interaction that I don't know about, but I would just walk over and deck him and the entire thing would be done. Maybe aliens just don't think the same way we do. NPC is getting close to completing the first boss fight. After this series of notes, it should be over. Gilgatex is pulling up pretty close behind, has I think three bars left. And of course aliens can't handle the power of sick record scratching and they eventually explode in a shower of gore. That's child safe, right? Whatever. Onto level 2, Coal Butt Mountain. Now, if you thought having to do platforming on a skateboard was bad enough, try doing it on a snowboard with actual snow and ice physics. That's what level 2 is. And of course, level 2 starts immediately with a force fight here. But we're going to see a whole lot of switchbacks, a whole lot of weird, tricky platforming on ice. It's one of the more irritating levels, I think. My exposure to this game was having to race it blind, and then I tried to pick up a couple of completions for it for speedrunning purposes. Just the slidey physics here are pretty terrible. It is indeed double ice physics. Looks like Gilgatex is about 30 seconds behind, very easily able to catch up, especially with some of the later jumps that will perplex and confound our runners. The series of fights that NPC is scrolling through, going from left to right after reaching the bottom of the level, it's just like 4 or 5 fights in a row. He does manage to pick up a invincibility power-up, which we saw in the form of this like blue blob that was sparking off of him. I don't know what that's supposed to be, but it does let you just roll through things without taking damage, and it lasts about a second and a half. In addition to that, you'll also see the racers picking up colored slingshots. Now, you have a normal attack with unlimited ammo, but you also have green, red, and blue slingshot attacks that you have to pick up ammo for. They will be saving that ammo for later in the game when they can try to use it to accelerate fights with stronger enemies. Blue gives you double damage, and green gives you triple, I think, and red just kind of makes your shots better, if I remember correctly. So NPC is coming up on the most irritating jump in this stage. It's this little thing here where you have to kind of very carefully jump across this series of platforms, but the hitboxes for the platforms are only about 2/3 of what you see there. Where the curve starts is not actually hitbox, you can't actually land on it. So it's a lot trickier than they made it look. Meanwhile, Gilgatex is fighting a Yeti, because why not? Can't do anything with him, you just kind of gotta do that segment, kill the enemies, and move on without getting bopped by the Yeti. NPC is getting pretty close to the end of the level. Gilgatex is reaching the annoying jumps. And I'm noticing that Gilgatex's life is a fair bit lower than he may be comfortable with it being. We'll see if he decides to take a death a little bit later as a result. Another thing to keep in mind is that you don't restore your health between levels. So that 7 points of health he has is what he's going to have going forward, even when he begins level 3. NPC should be on one of the final fights of the level. So, ice physics are bad, but the upcoming level is even worse. We'll see that when we get there. Meanwhile, it looks like Gilgatex is still down 1 life versus NPC. That shouldn't matter a whole lot. just because I don't expect either one of them to game over. In the event that you do game over, though, you have infinite continues, but you have to start the stage over. Now, because these stages are 5, minutes, it's a pretty significant loss. NPC is on to the second boss, which is the abominable snowman. In this case, I think I'd just wait for spring, but One-Eye Jack here decides to fight him with the power of music. I guess that's valid too. This is exactly the same as the last fight, except it's a little more intense with the note patterns. You're up to about a 2-foot DDR song now. Maybe a little bit worse than that. I may be selling it just a tiny bit short. But it is, again, a 3-minute boss fight. And again, if he drops a single note, he has to do an entire measure over again. It'll give Gilgatex a chance to catch up. Why is he called One-Eye Jack? I once tried to get into the story of this, and it's really nonsensical. The basic gist of the plot is you are One-Eye Jack. Why you only have one eye, I don't know. And these aliens have arrived to basically steal all of your music and culture, and you have to stop them with the power of record scratching. I think, frankly, I'm just a little bit too white for it, but... Meanwhile, it looks a lot closer here with Gilgatex and NPC on the same boss fight. And yeah, that is the entire lore. This is an extremely late 90s, early aughts game. NPC at this point is about 3 measures ahead, and very soon we'll be able to see the third stage, which is just riveting, and is about as far as I got in an hour of blind playthrough when I raced this for the first time. They're going to get there in 12 minutes. Also, take a moment to appreciate the music while we're here. They tried. I can say they tried. Something that I heard from Gilgatex while I was checking out his run is that apparently after running this about 170 times, the music does grow on you. It's not terrible. And yeah, I still find skateboarding cool myself, but I don't claim to be with it. NPC takes down the abominable snowman, who just suddenly melts under the power of the sick beats. Now, stage 3 is the underground, which starts in a subway station and eventually weaves through a sewer. NPC is actually going to go straight into using the double damage shots here. Not something I'm really familiar with as a strategy. I don't know if this is something new he developed or if it's a safety strat. It looks like he's going to just turn them off now. So as you can see, he does have fairly limited ammo with that. I believe you get 10 shots for every slingshot you pick up through the game. And we do want to have our racers keep a good number of those in reserve for levels 4 and 5. Gilgatex, meanwhile, is moving on to stage 3. It's still a pretty close race. He's about 20 seconds behind. And especially here in the underground, that can just melt away from one mistake. Especially as NPC's health is starting to get a little low. Now, this level is unique in that both racers are going to pick up all 10 records that are present in this level, because in addition to giving you health for the DDR sections, if you pick up all 10 records in a level, you get a special move. Usually those moves are not very important, but in the case of doing it in level 3, you get a double jump, which in a skateboarding-based platformer is really important. NPC down to 4 health. That's a little dicey. He may choose to take an intentional death here pretty soon. There's a really good opportunity to do it on the next section of like pipes and whatnot after this one. Oh, by the way, the underground has a warp portal in it. Doesn't your subway system have that? This is going to take us into a transition to the sewers, where you have alligators that you can only jump on when their mouths are shut. It's real Frogger hours here. And graffiti that wants you dead. Completely legit. Gilgatex takes a death. That's gonna hurt. It's gonna solidify NPC's lead a little bit. As NPC pulls out the blue slingshot again and rolls into another forced fight section and just instantly destroys it. He was in that fight for about 4 seconds. Normally they take a bit longer than that. His health is getting awfully low though. That med kit will stave it off, but he falls just far enough to trigger falling damage, and he's right back where he started with 2 hit points. He's going to have to play careful, and that's going to give Gilgatex an opportunity to catch up. So, Stage 3 is home to probably the worst jump in the run, in my opinion, and it's coming up pretty soon for NPC. It's a jump across a sewer section with multiple pipes sticking out, and missing the jump is instant death. You can see kind of the hint of it up at the top of his screen right now. Those pipes are not as big as they look. Their hitbox is basically a square that you can draw inside the circle of the pipe. And he's managed to do it on his first try. So that's a really big hurdle in the run crossed. And the rest of the level should be okay for him, I think. Gilgatex is running up behind by about 30 seconds and is a little low on health. NPC, meanwhile, got the double ollie, the double jump I was talking about, by picking up all 10 records. And that's going to be really important in the final 2 stages. Yeah, the double ollie. You know, not just an ollie, but in mid-air you decide to ollie again. NPC's going to take a death very soon, maybe? But yeah, in stages 4 and 5, that will be instrumental in doing cycle skips. NPC does manage to escape level 3 alive, but he still has very low health. The boss of stage 3 is exactly the same as the last 2. It's a DDR section. It's about the same difficulty as 2, but you're fighting against a sewer golem mech thing? I don't even know what this is. It's... ugh. It's not good. Gilgatex got past the terrible sewer jump as well. And it should be a straight shot for him to the end, unless he goes down to damage from the forced fights. Still a possibility. NPC is going to be on this boss fight for a while. This one seems to take a little bit longer. Oh. Okay, that was an intentional death on Gilgatex's part. That should drop him off pretty close to where he had died. I'm fairly certain he didn't like how low his health was and decided to take an intentional. Still, that's going to put him a little bit further behind, but NPC will have to take a death as well at some point unless he just has an amazing run of the next 2 stages. So we'll see where that happens and how much impact it has. Oh, no, Gilgatex got sent back pretty far. That hurts. Also, is it just me, or does the portion of the level that Gilgatex just went through look kind of like a Happy Wheels level almost, or something along those lines? I don't know. You can see, however, that picking up all 10 records has given NPC 10 hit points on this fight, which hopefully he will not need, because as I've said, just missing 1 note is a huge time loss. Yeah, Gilgatex has to do the sewer jumps again, which he hammers with expertise. And with 7 health, he should have a clear shot to the finish. Worms Armageddon, that's a good one. It looks like worms. Picking up the blue orb will help him as well on Gilgatex's side to get through some places where he needs to do possibly a damage boost. NPC is just now wrapping up the stage 3 boss and will be moving on shortly. Gilgatex exits the stage 3 main area. He's a boss fight behind now, but can still catch up. 4 and 5 are not very polite levels, to say the least. So the sewer mech has exploded. Level 4 is the Coca Soul Puppies factory. It's a cereal factory. So the gimmick here is conveyor belts and moving platforms and platform cycles. Now, having picked up the double ollie from the previous stage, our racers will have the opportunity to do cycle skips by double jumping onto platforms they couldn't normally reach. Most of the moving platform cycles are not very well aligned to moving quickly, and just even though they sunk time into picking up the double jump, they will probably make up far more than that, just being able to blow through the platforms without worrying about cycle alignment. Also, touching the green goop anywhere in the factory, I believe, is an instant death. It's pretty terrible. NPC, as a reminder, is still down to 2 health. If I were him, I would look for a place to take an intentional death with a nearby checkpoint, but it looks like he's going in hard. He's had a really solid run so far, and maybe he's wanting to put it all on the line to try to land a good time here. So NPC has started actually burning the blue slingshot ammo now. He did use some in the prior level, but this is where you usually in a run just start burning it because you want to take the enemies out faster. NPC is actually out of ammo, so we will see how that impacts going forward for him. Gilgatex still probably, I believe at least, has a decent stash of ammo, but he's still back on the level 3 boss. He has 2 cycles left on him, I believe. So NPC managed to fall through a platform there. That's just something the game decides to do to you once in a while. And he's going to have to take a different route. There we go, he's back on track now. NPC is the 2nd place holder. Gilgatex is the world record holder, but this run right now that NPC is on is really strong. It may be PB candidate. I don't know about world record. It's a really strong run. He's playing it incredibly risky though by just refusing to take an intentional death and get his health back. I'm hoping it doesn't come back to bite him. Gilgatex is just now starting level 4. Still has the opportunity to catch up. There's a level and a half left in the race. There's still plenty of places for NPC to make a mistake and open the door for Gilgatex. So Gilgatex does have a full stash of health here. It's a little harrowing. But NPC is rolling up toward the end of the level now. There's not a whole lot of level 4 left. Up toward the end here in the auto-scroller section, or auto-scroller force fight sections, you want to get a blue orb, because if you reach the end of this level with a blue orb, like the one NPC just picked up, you can actually skip a very lengthy series of having to wait for steam blasts and lasers and other stuff like that. I do believe NPC got a little bit too late to be useful. So he rolls into boss number 4, which is this chef alien, who I guess is a cereal chef. I will, however, point out someone did just pull the world record for this game from the speedrun bot. The world record is actually a 34:11. Gilgatex got it in practice while getting ready for this race. It just hasn't been thrown up on the leaderboard yet. Yeah, NPC's on a ridiculous pace right now. It's been a really solid run for him. So, as you can see, the DDR sections never really get hard. This is not all that difficult. It's just, you know, the notes get a little bit closer together. The main problem with the DDR section is it's not really clear when you're supposed to hit the button. It's not actually when the arrow is dead center in the box, it's when the arrow's midpoint crosses the right line. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but once you figure that out, it's pretty natural, pretty easy to get into the flow. So this boss fight's going to take a while. Gilgatex is stuck in the conveyor belt sections, entering into some of the platform jumps, and takes one heck of a long fall. Fortunately, the length of the fall doesn't matter. You only take 1 damage, but the steam is instant death. So that's going to send him back a ways. The world record for no rules get fat is heavily contested between the 2 runners you see here. They're both hungry for it, they both want it, and they're both engaging in a grudge match for no rules get fat superiority. Maybe I kid a little bit. It's definitely a very friendly competition. The boss on NPC side is getting pretty low. NPC is still down to about 3 health, so as we go into level 5, we're going to see how well he can manage with almost no life. Gilgatex, meanwhile, has a good amount of health. Huh, okay, I misspoke. I had said that the fall distance didn't matter, but I was mistaken. Apparently you can fall far enough to just die. That's news to me, as we saw happen to Gilgatex there. NPC's on his last cycle with the boss, and then we'll be heading into stage 5, the final stage. And there he goes, and he just kind of, explodes. Kind of reminds me of the Phlemoids from Chex Quest, which is convenient because that was a cereal factory. Now then, stage 5 is the Punkass Ship. Can I say that on RGL? Am I about to get banned? Well, too late now. It's the name of the aliens, alright? Just work with me here. So this is going to be 2 sections. One's going to be this like weird outside alien foresty area, and then we're going to go into the ship for the final showdown. Gilgatex, meanwhile, is rolling up close to the final push of level 4 and should hopefully be out of there shortly. NPC has gotten himself back up to 5 health. If he manages to get all the way through the end of the game without taking an intentional or unintentional death to get his life back, it's going to be a sick run. He's really risking quite a bit, though, in how he fell to 1 health at one point and managed to get his health back up with these 2 HP health kits. He's really put a lot on the line in this race. Normally I would take safety strats, but maybe that's why I'm not the no rules get fat, 2nd place runner. That and I have a sense of self-preservation. Yeah, the pace NPC is on is fat, it's sick, it's dope, and it's a bunch of other words I never use in standard vernacular. Whole lot of electricity in NPC's side. Gilgatex is on the boss of stage 4 as NPC gets into the ship area through the portal that is in every ship, I guess. Gilgatex is going to be about 90 seconds to 2 minutes on this boss. He's got quite a bit of a deficit to make up for, but he can still lay down a really solid run, and with the risks that NPC is taking, he's definitely not out of the race yet. What would need to happen for Gilgatex to catch up? NPC would need to die immediately before a checkpoint, which could happen. It's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Especially with these jumps. Like, you can just fall down here and lose, a good chunk of time, and take damage, and just, it can cascade into a whole lot of problems. But NPC told me before the race that he had been practicing because he wanted to lay down a really solid pace run, a PB even maybe, in this race, and it looks like he's on pace to do that. The final boss, though, is a pretty long boss fight. We'll see when we get there. So we can't really count on, you know, the final boss being a 2-minute affair like the former bosses have been. It's going to be a pretty close run if he finishes, and he's on to the boss of stage 5. So the final boss of stage 5 is this Poindexter. Should just be a slam dunk, right? He can't handle the power of the sick beats. Though One-Eyed Jack is having a little bit of a handicap here because he's having to scratch a 3D alien record. You can't just scratch the alien record in 2D. You got to do it in 3 dimensions with this weird red lever thing. You know, that's going to put NPC at a deficit. Nah, I'm messing with you. It's absolutely the same as every other boss fight, except it's a little faster, a little more intense. And again, missing a single note means you have to repeat an entire measure. Gilgatex, meanwhile, is wrapping up the stage 4 boss. One more measure and he should be done there. And there he goes. Can you mash the notes? Yes, I believe you can mash the notes. I had actually meant to ask the runners that, and I forgot. So I don't know for certain, but I believe yes, you can. So NPC is down to 1 cycle on Poindexter here. Meanwhile, Gilgatex is moving through the beginning of stage 5. He's in fairly decent condition. Should be able to get through here. And Poindexter explodes into this buff jerk. And stage 2 of the final boss fight begins, exactly the same as stage 1. Maybe even a little bit easier. He's doing a like 1950s dance though, with the hand gestures. Either that or he's trying to do some kind of like ninja jutsu or something. But I think he's just doing a really outdated dance. Gilgatex is about halfway through stage 5. He's picked up an extra life for safety. Now, as I had said before, even if you game over, you have infinite continues, but having to restart stage 5 would be not the best. So taking a safety 1-up, definitely a good idea. NPC is on pace to have about a 33, which is sick. It's ridiculous. I hope to see that. So again, the trick with the DDR fights is after every measure, the boss flinches if you do it right, and then you have to hit A. Which, when I did my blind race the first time I was exposed to this game, I was not told I had to hit A after every measure, and it took me like 10 minutes to figure it out. But these are speedrunners who know the game. Oh, and by the way, having annoyed the Poindexter through 2 cycles, he now goes Super Saiyan, and now you actually have a challenge in the DDR segment. Again, why doesn't he just walk over and punch the heck out of One-Eyed Jack? That's what I want to know. So this is the final form. NPC has 1 life bar left to chew through, and I believe they call time on the final entry in the final measure. So we're gonna see a really sick run out of NPC unless he manages to drop just everything on this final form. Gilgatex, meanwhile, is pretty close to the end of stage 5. We can expect to see a finish out of him very soon. I did see that he had fallen and taken a death while we were watching NPC battle the final boss, but that doesn't seem to have really put too much of a dent in him. Oh! And he falls into like the one crevice on that climb that can be instant death. I think he's gonna go back for a respawning 1-up for safety because he doesn't want a game over. No, I'm mistaken. He was actually going the right way. Didn't seem like it to me at the time. I'm not entirely sure where he fell. NPC takes out the final boss. I want to see where he stops his timer. That is a 33:01. That is a world record by 1 minute and 15 seconds. That is stupid. That is huge. everyone go nuts for NPC. He just killed the game. That was a flawless run. That was an amazing run, actually. So Gilgatex has game overed. That's unfortunate. So he's going to start over at the beginning of level 5, and he's going to have to go through level 5 again. But he should still be well on pace to finish under estimate. Yeah, so that's world record by a minute, and it's a 2-minute PB from NPC. Yes, recorded PB. He had been practicing. I don't know if he had a better PB, but I know for sure that's the world record. He had come into this saying that he wanted a PB in this marathon, and he delivered. He more than delivered. That's a disgusting run. I don't think he had any issues or flaws in it. I didn't see anything, at least. Gilgatex, meanwhile, is on the ascent portion of level 5, which is the beginning. He did take a game over, but he's still on pace for a fairly decent run. He's had a rough go of it. You know, NPC is kind of scary in his ability to be consistent in race settings. You know, it's just an ability he has. Gilgatex has had a little bit of a rough race, but he is a top-notch runner of this game. Definitely capable of having the world record, because up until about 30 seconds ago, he had it. So now he's into the second segment of level 5. NPC might be cursing a lot right now. I don't know why NPC would be cursing. He should be celebrating. Then again, it's a world record in this game. I guess if you play this game, you end up cursing eventually. But yes, major congrats to NPC for that. Yeah, the art style in this game is a little bit of a problem in some places. It's very comic-y, but it's not, it doesn't fit into... Oh, Gilgatex takes another death. He's got this, though. Definitely like to see some energy for Gilgatex to finish this out. He's right at the end. Is NPC doing credits %? I think NPC is doing credits % or something. Or it's the demo. I'm not sure. So these platforms, like most of the moving platforms in the game, are not very... Well, there's two problems with them. One is that their hitboxes are not nearly as big as they appear, as you can see right there. The other is that there's no real guarantee on what their cycle is going to be when you get there. It seems to be a global cycle started by your local position. So as you roll up to it, you kind of control where they spawn and when they move. But that doesn't mean a whole lot if you're not like perfectly in control of your movement, which you're not in an ice physics platformer like this. So you can get there and just get handed a platform cycle that's garbage. And I suspect that's what's happened with Gilgatex quite a few times here. Is anything about this game predictable? The sick beats, the punk-ass aliens being punk-ass aliens, me getting banned from RGL TV for using the word punk-ass? Wait, maybe not. It looks like Gilgatex is going to tap out. Let me check with him right quick. Okay, yeah, it looks like Gilgatex is going to mercy kill the run here, because at this point, it would probably put him over estimate to finish out. That's unfortunate. Gilgatex is a great runner of this game. I've seen his runs. He's the world record holder up until this race. Really solid. So GG's to Gilgatex, GG's to NPC. Sometimes the game just decides to eat you for lunch. So he's going to go ahead and wrap it up. NPC, of course, takes down the record with like a 33:02 or something like that. Sick run, amazing run. Follow both of them. They're amazing streamers, amazing gamers, amazing runners. GG to both of them. And yeah, I guess for now, I'm going to kick it back over to our restreamers to take it away and continue the marathon. I think we have Titus the Fox up next. Oh God, that's going to be a spectacle. So yeah, go ahead and take it away, restreamers. We're done here. Thanks for watching, everyone.